Welcome back. So let's take a look at a function that doesn't actually return anything and doesn't accept anything. So you can have a function like this, void, and it's usually good to I don't know, I like to do that, but if you don't, it's fine. But I like to group functions depending on where I place them. For example, if they're in a class or if they're in some sort of a header, whatever. If there are, but in this case, if they are here above the main, I like to group them in some sort of order. So for example, okay, void, I shall place all void functions one below the other. I shall place all int functions one below the other. Or if I have like a group of functions that are performing a certain set of actions for a specific purpose, I will group them in such a way. This is purely for aesthetic reasons, and this is purely my preference as well. It has no bearing on whether the code will compile or not. Print many. Print menu. Okay, so print menu, and you see, let me just separate it from the rest. You see, it doesn't actually take any arguments, and it doesn't return any values. It's a bit weird, and you might think, well, why would you have such a function, etc.? What will it do? Well, let's have a look. It can be used for a simple printout. That's what we're going to do here. So if I have this, I am a genius. You need to give me a medal for this. Missing a parentheses there. We can use it for a printout, so we don't actually have to write it every single time. See out. And it can be like 1 dot addition. Let's put it like that. And we're gonna go ahead and go into the new line here. Well, actually, we flushed the buffer last, so we'll go into the new line like this. So backslash is an escape character, and backslash n stands for new line. So we're going to go into a new line like this. And we can shorten the amount of typing that we need to do. And just change a few things around. So instead of addition, we can type in subtraction. Have I misspelled this seriously? It doesn't matter. So, let's do right. I might have. All right. Subtraction. Yep, there we go. And the last one, we won't use the escape character n. Rather, instead, we'll do some flushing with std, colon, and l, like this. So the last one will be 3. This will be multiplication. Multiplication. Okay, so lost a little bit of time with writing there, but no big deal. Anyway, now that we have this function, it takes no arguments and it returns nothing. It just creates a printout onto the screen. You can see how this can basically save time. So instead of having to write 100 times 3 or 5 or 6 or 10 lines that are just printing something out onto the screen, you can just place it into a function and then use that function whenever you need to print it out onto the screen. So let's go ahead and go back into the main, and we are going to basically remove all of this. And we shall leave int, and it's going to be n1, n2, std. You see, we could have even created a function for the input forms, like enter function for enter a number, and then just call the function whenever we need to print it out onto the screen, enter a number. I can't remember how many times have we typed this in thus far, and a simple short function would actually help us out a great deal in terms of shortening the amount of time it takes us to write the code. Enter number 1. Okay, so we will definitely need 2 numbers, and it's going to be like this, std and 1. Okay, so cout, enter number 2. Okay, so let's just enable the user to be able to put it in. Cin and 2. There we go. So the user will basically enter 2 numbers, and then we would like to give the user a choice what the user would like to do with those 2 numbers. Would the user like to add them, subtract them, or multiply them? And in order for us to give that choice to the user, we need to make a printout of some sort of a menu. And that is exactly what this function is for. Print menu. There we go. So this will just create a printout. Okay. And now we will create an integer. So int choice. So there will be a choice that the user will be able, you'll press 1 to add them, press 2 to subtract them, press 3 to multiply them as well. So choice, and let's just place a semicolon there. We'll also need a result, so a variable to basically store the result of the chosen operation. And let's go ahead and type in if choice is equal to 1, then result shall be equal to n1 plus n2. There we go. Else if choice is equal to 2, then result shall be equal to n1 minus n2. Else if choice is equal to 3, if it's the same as 3, we will result shall be equal to n1 times n2. There we go. And we need a final default statement. Well, not a default statement, but just in case it's in case that it's none of these. So else, and for this we're gonna need the curly brackets because we're gonna have more than one line. Std error, wrong choice, and wrong choice. That's it. We don't really need anything else. I was thinking of putting in some shenanigans, but nah, it's fine. And down below, we'll actually see one more interesting thing that's gonna be new. So return 1. Now, what is going on here? It says return 1, and here it says return 0. So we have two possible return values in main. Well, if this case occurs, we're going to return 1, and that will be the exit status of the main function. It will exit the whole program. 1 means unsuccessfully finished. That is the convention. It doesn't necessarily need to mean that, but that is the convention. So if main returns anything other than 0, there's a problem. 1 means that it unsuccessfully finished. It won't prevent the compilation or anything. This is a runtime thing, so if during the operations of the program during the runtime something happens that is unpredicted, or something happens that is not in accordance with our logic of the program as it is here, so you have choices 1, 2, 3, and somebody enters a number 100 for the choice. We're gonna exit when the exit status will be 1, meaning that we've unsuccessfully finished the program. The result is okay. Here we go. The result is, well, result There we go. So the result is basically the value of the variable result. And let's go ahead and build and run this. Of course. Build and run. Yes, there we go. So enter number 1. Okay, so we need, I don't know, 9. Enter number 2. 2. So error, wrong choice. Okay, so there is a problem with the program. We need to go ahead and figure it out what it actually is. We have entered 2 numbers, but you can usually examine the input and the output of the program in order to figure out what is going on. So if choice is equal to 1. Okay, so does anybody see the error? Because I do. Where does the problem lie? Well, first of all, choice is uninitialized, which is basically fine. But there is no input, there is no way for the user to actually input the choice, to input the number for the variable choice. And there is no way, there is nothing informing the user that they should actually choose anything. It just says enter number 1 and enter number 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that logic. Nothing special that we need to type in here. So once the menu is printed out, we're gonna just let's see, std c. Oh, we don't need that. We just need cin, because the menu will already be printed out. So just std cin choice. And let's go ahead and build and run this now. So enter number 1, let it be 9 again, and let this be 2 again. And it's a bit weird. I could have added another cout statement actually telling the user to press 1, 2, or 3, but doesn't really matter. Here, for example, let's just press 3 multiplication. So that should be 18, right? Yep, the result is 18. We can run it again and enter some values like 10, 10. Subtraction, that should be 0. Yep, there we go. The result is 0. So you can play around with it all you want. And what I would advise you to do as an exercise for yourselves is create a fourth choice here, which will be division. And implement that in print menu as well. Just write another cout statement saying for.division. And then go ahead and create another if statement. Say if choice equals 4, divide n1 with n2. And once you do that, go ahead and examine the results. First, try entering. We will enter 2 integers, and you will have, I don't know, let's say you enter the first integer to be 3 and the other integer to be 2. You will see that you won't get a decimal portion of the code of the result that will be truncated. You will only get the whole part. So 3 divided by 2, that's going to be 0 point something, right? Sorry, it's going to be 1 point something, my bad. So 3 divided by 2, that's going to be 1 point something. The result will be 1. So the other part will be truncated. That is the way that division of integers works. In order for you to get the decimal points, you will need to introduce floating point numbers to divide them, or double numbers. Another thing which you can try is type, I don't know, some number for n1 and then for n2 enter a 0. So try dividing something with a 0 and see what sort of a result will you get. I mean, of course, that's not going to work, but just play around with it and see what you're going to get. Anyway, if you have any questions, feel free to address them in the feel free to post them in the Q&A section. Bid you farewell, and in the follow-up tutorial, we're gonna deal with a new form of functions that have been pretty much introduced, that are C++11 things, basically introduced in C++11. So bid you farewell, and hope to see you again.